it is said that there are two ways to get to the top of an oak tree. You can climb it or sit on an acorn and wait. You know, in this world, in our lives, in school, in the workplace, in the struggles of life, you can find a way to overcome your struggle and your challenge, or simply curl up and fade away. Well, that turns out to be the key point of today's gospel reading, coming out of the 19th chapter of Luke, verses 1 to 10. What is unusual about today's gospel reading, in every gospel reading we read every weekend, Jesus is always the central figure. He's the one we favor. He is the protagonist. But in today's gospel reading, it is not Jesus who is the central figure or the protagonist, but rather a fellow by the name of Zacchaeus. And let's take a look how he garners that position. Let's take a look at verse 1, 2, and 3 of the 19th chapter of Luke. At that time, Jesus came to Jericho and intended to pass through the town. Now a man there named Zacchaeus, who was a chief tax collector and also a wealthy man, was seeking to see who Jesus was, because he could not see him because of the crowd, for he was short in stature. You see, clearly you're reading that, you're saying to yourself, well, too bad he's short. I really wish you would be able to see Jesus. Your kind of heart goes out to Zacchaeus a little bit, so he becomes a protagonist. What was the problem here? Zacchaeus was short. The crowd was large. Jesus was far. And Zacchaeus has got to find a way to make himself a little taller so he could see Jesus. Now, Zacchaeus could have said to himself, well, that's my plight in life. I'm a short fella. I'll never be able to see Jesus, and that's the way it is. Or he could take the initiative to try to find a way to see Jesus. And that's exactly what he does in verse 4. Let's look at the initiative that he takes. 19th chapter of Luke again. So he, that Zacchaeus, ran ahead and climbed the sycamore tree in order to see Jesus, who was about to pass that way. Now, that is very instructive, that line that says he climbed the sycamore tree. Where Zacchaeus was located, there were many different types of deciduous trees. But Zacchaeus looked and he saw the sycamore tree, so he ran to that tree, specifically the sycamore. Why? Versus the maple, versus the poplar tree. Why did he look at the sycamore tree? Sycamore trees, by their nature, in the Middle East, here in the United States, they're most all the same. By their nature, they have very low branches. Sycamore trees, the branch starts about a foot off the ground. And those low branches are thick and strong. So if you're short and you want to climb a tree, that's the tree you want to climb, because it's easy to get onto that first branch, versus a maple tree when the first row of branches is about 8 feet up. You can't get up that far. So he sees that sycamore tree and he bolts to it, and then he goes right up the tree. Because Zacchaeus realized, I have this challenge, and I'm the one who needs to overcome the challenge. No one can do this for me. Jesus is about to pass by the way, and if I don't get up that tree quickly, he won't see me, I won't see him. Now, does his effort pay off? Let's take a look at verse 5 and 6 to see it's going to turn out to be his work pays off. When he reached the place, Jesus looked up and said, Zacchaeus, come down quickly today, for I must stay at your house. And he came down quickly and received him with joy. So it worked for Zacchaeus. You see, Zacchaeus wanted to see Jesus, but as important, he wanted to make sure that Jesus would see him. And he realized the only way to do that is on top of that tree. In life, it doesn't matter what your problem is, what struggle you're facing, what hurdle you have to tackle, what darkness you might be going through. If you want to solve your problems, who is the one that is very instrumental in solving your problems? You. No one else can do it for you. What Zacchaeus is saying is, I have this problem, and I'm the one who's got to find a way to overcome it. If I work on solving my own problem by becoming an active participant in solving my problem, guess what? My problem is going to get solved. I'll find a solution to my dilemma. But if I sit back and say to myself, well, this is the way it is, this is my fate, there's nothing I can do, then this problem persists. You know, it reminds me, and when I read this story, I quickly went to Captain Sullenberger. Y'all probably remember this. But Captain Sullenberger was flying, it was called the Miracle on the Hudson. He was flying U.S. Airways Flight 1549 out of LaGuardia Airport, and shortly after he left LaGuardia Airport, a group of Canadian geese were sucked into the engines. compromising the engines. At that point, he was having trouble getting altitude and getting thrust to go forward on that plane. He realized he was in big trouble, the plane. He called back at tower headquarters, the airline headquarters, and he told them what had happened, air traffic controllers. And they said to him, you should go back to LaGuardia Airport or try to get to Teterboro Airport in northern New Jersey. And he said he couldn't do either one. He didn't have the capability, because of the compromised engines, to get back to LaGuardia or go over to Teterboro. He said, I'll have no other choice than to land this plane in the Hudson River. And that is what he did. And you might remember seeing this in the news, or it's seared in my memory, but as he successfully landed a plane in a river, and the plane was not torn apart, 153 passengers, not one was lost, and they're all standing on the wing of the plane as assistance is coming over to rescue them. And after that story unfolded, and he was interviewed by many, many news stations naturally around the world. But there's one station I was watching who was being interviewed, and the question he was asked was this: Captain Sullenberger, when you realized the plane was in trouble, what did you do? And the answer he gave, I said to myself when he gave this answer, he clearly has an understanding in 19th chapter of Luke, verses 1 to 10. He must know the Zacchaeus story. Because he said this, when he was asked the question, when you realized the plane was in trouble, what did you do? And his answer? He said, I prayed, and then I went to work. What a combination. I prayed, and then I went to work. I said, God, be with me. So as I touch the knobs and the levers, I'm going to use all my knowledge that I have, but I need your guidance in making sure I do everything right to get this plane down on the Hudson River without tearing it apart and losing any passengers. I prayed, then I went to work. He did not say, I prayed, and then I took a nap on my captain's chair, and I said, God, let me see what you can do. You're in charge of it, God. I'll see how this thing turns out. I'll close my eyes. You see, you're not going to get anywhere like that. If you yourself are dealing with problems, and there's a good chance that some of you are, but if you're dealing with drugs, alcohol, sexual problems, whatever your problem might be, marital problems, if you say to yourself, this is the problem I'm dealing with, I'm going to pray to God, and if God and I work together, we can solve or eradicate the problem I'm dealing with. But if you simply get down at night and say, God, these are my problems, you tell God your problems, then you walk away, you do nothing to assist yourself and assist God in working through your problem, guess what's going to continue? Your problem. I've had many parents tell me, moms and dads and aunts and uncles, they'll tell me about a problem their son or daughter, niece or nephew is having, or friend. They're having problems with drugs or alcohol or whatever the problem might be, low self-esteem. They're trying to get their loved one help, and they do everything they can. I had a parent tell me that they even made the doctor's appointment. They told their son, look, this is the time of the doctor's appointment. Go, the guy's expecting you on Wednesday, and the fella never showed up. Why didn't he show up? Because he needed to take the initiative. You cannot solve someone's problem for them. They need to. If someone you love needs to see a doctor for whatever reason, and they don't reach out to see the doctor, they don't schedule the appointment, you do all that for them, they're probably not going to show up. Because they have to. That's the story of Zacchaeus. He realized that, oh man, I'm short. How can I see Jesus? I'll wait for someone to lift me up in their shoulders. No, he thought to himself, I'm not going to depend on anyone else. I'm going to climb a sycamore tree. I'm going to take the initiative. Captain Sullenberger said, I prayed, and then I went to work. Because I realized, God, working together, this thing can work. It's a very powerful message in the 19th chapter of Luke, verses 1 to 10. If you know if someone is currently dealing with problems and you're doing everything you can to help them, but they're not helping themselves, that's what they need to do. If you want to turn to Scripture, say to that person, look, just do me a favor. Read the 19th chapter of Luke, verses 1 to 10. Understand the story of Zacchaeus, and you'll realize what you need to do. Take the initiative for yourself to solve your own problems. Anything less than that, the problem can't be solved. I'll leave you with what I started. It's philosophical. It's kind of cute. But philosophically, it makes a whole lot of sense, because it is the essence of this gospel reading. So when I say it, just mull over it, chew on it, think about it, swallow it. Because it, in fact, is a very important message. There are two ways to get to the top of an oak tree. You can climb it, or you can sit on an acorn and wait.